we had this crash worldwide in 1929, the crash in Wall Street, New York, beginning of the bank crisis in the United States, beginning of the economic crisis in the United States, spreading over the international monetary system and the international trading links also to Europe, led in Europe to this mass unemployment in the early 30s. And this was the background for fascism. Without this economic crisis, fascism in Germany hadn't had any chance to come to power with the support of a big part of population and society. What we saw in 2008 was again a big financial crisis. You know where it started in the United States with the private households which had much too much credits, taken credits, and now were the debitors. Okay, usually there is a credit is linked, credit, with three aspects. This is interest, which has to be paid on the credit. This is the repay or redemption. I'll let it with re. And then, if this or that cannot be done by the debtor, then there is some kind of security. It seems a kind of security for the creditor of the bank, for example, says, okay, you can pay the credit and the debt, so we take the house which was financed with the credit, and you fall out of the house without a roof above your head and your body. And if it is land, then you lose the land under your feet. These are the consequences which threaten to debtors. And one can show that the interest system, with its tendency to ever-growing quantities of debts, debt, written debt, sounds the same. The debt is close to dead, more or less, for several parts of society. Because it tends to ever-growing debts and ever-growing interest burden. It has systematically and immanent to the system. It leads to more and more breakdowns of debtors. This is not their debt. They are not, in Germany we have the word Schuld. Schulden are debts, and Schuldner is the debtor, and Schuld is also guilty. The meaning of Schuld in German language is guilt. But the debtors who break down are not always individually guilty, but a big part of them is the consequence, big part of their breakdown is a consequence of the interest system. It needs more and more volume of debts, otherwise the monetary assets would not grow anymore. So where is the guilt? Not only, or if on the side of the debtors, but the deeper reasons, the deeper roots are anchored in the structure and dynamic of this interest system. So to come back to the securities. The securities should serve to those situations where the debitors are not able to pay the interest or to repay the credit. Then the house is taken away. They lose their property. There is an inbuilt tendency in the interest system that more and more parts of society, and even of world society, even whole countries, lose their property, lose their control over the property to the creditors. And if they can't pay, and if the securities are very bad, and they have to become more and more bad, because securities, for example, land, houses and whatever, they cannot grow as it would be necessary by exponential growth of interest. The securities have to become more and more invalid. This is not only a fault, a mistake of the, let's say, the banks who gave the credits, but the system produces more and more invalidity of the so-called securities. And this is what happened in the United States. And it should have consequences in what the banks publish in their Bilanzen.
In your report?
In their report, yeah. But they didn't dare to publish it, so they started to lie and to manipulate the figures. And okay, this can be done for a while, but the problem is not solved. Under the surface, below the surface, more and more stasis is building up. And then, it came up to the surface. Wow, what the banks hold as assets, or private shareholders held as assets, and had the illusion that it really was some kind of value. This showed to be nothing, sometimes nearly nothing, no value. And this is a problem which is not really overcome. There are so many assets where the creditors insist of being paid by the debitors. And if not, the banks, for example, they come from plus into minus, and it threatens that they will be go down in bankruptcy. And then we had the situation, they are too big to fail. Many of them are too big to fail, so they have to be gerettet.
Saved.
They have to be saved. Yeah, it is so incredible that now the words. I have difficulty to find the words, and especially in English. Okay, who could save the state? And now the states, many countries, they were much more in this public debt already. And they said, we don't have money available for social programs, for educational programs, for necessary things. No money. Reducing public expenditures and so. But in this situation, from one week to another, from one day to another, billions of dollars, and then also of euro in Europe, billions of dollars were available to protect those bankrupt, practically bankrupt banks. And this leads to another interesting question.